very welcome back to Flop Culture, a podcast all about our favourite flops and an interrogation as to what makes a flop. My name is Fionnuala J. I hope you're really well. I hope you enjoyed last week's episode. I'm really excited for this week's episode, and there's a lot to chat about, so let's get into the news. We are getting a Legally Blonde prequel series. We accept the television we think we deserve, girls. This is coming, I'm not sure when it's coming, but it's Amazon Prime Video. It's following Elle Woods in high school. Obviously, Reese Witherspoon is some way involved in terms of the back end, but as it's going to be high school Elle, I can't imagine it's going to be her playing her. Maybe she'll feature in flashbacks. I don't know. The logline for the series states that it follows Elle Woods in high school as we learn about the experiences that shaped her into the iconic young woman we came to know and love in the first Legally Blonde film. This is coming while we are also awaiting the third Legally Blonde sequel, right? Which is presumably going to have some focus on the law, right? Because the issue I have with this prequel series is that Legally Blonde was inherently interesting because it was a dummy who is able to maneuver her way into law and find her own way to make law hers and, prove herself to other people. But the foundation was that it was also a legal drama in some ways, legal dramedy, don't get me wrong. This series, without her having the experience of going to college, this is just blonde. There's no legally in it. This is just, I'm watching a dumb girl in high school. And if that was the case, they could have just brought the cameras to my school. You know what I mean? Anyway, sorry. Why? And obviously I do get this because it's easy to make a prequel series because then Reese doesn't have to commit. Reese doesn't have to commit in a big way in terms of playing current Elle, and then you don't have the issue of recasting, because I don't agree with that either. Nobody would want that. Nobody would want that for present day Elle. That's why they're not doing a legal courtroom good wife drama vibes. I have enough dummies in high school shows to fill up my back pockets. I don't care about this. Currently titled Elle. And what? This is so greedy. Between this, the Office reboot, there's been news of a couple of other bits this week. Let's just make other things. Let's make other things. Yeah, but we try that for once in our lives. Between this and the news that Mr. and Mrs. Smith is coming back, but it's not going to be Donald Glover and Maya Erskine. It's like an anthology series. Not sure if I want anything to do with that, respectfully. And also that they're giving our Lord and Saviour Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Fleabag Queen, they're letting her reboot the Tomb Raider series. I don't know, I don't know. And as someone who's never written a creative project for screen, presumably very hard. I don't doubt it. So I get why maybe it's easier to mine from a well. But this, can we all agree that this is going to be shit? No? I don't know. Anyway, let me know what you think. Am I wrong? Do you really want this? Are we nostalgia pilled? I personally think we're nostalgia pilled. I think we're Reese Witherspoon pilled. And I get it. I do get it. I can't imagine how this is going to be good. I really don't get it. Even I feel like I was seeing some things about it being maybe a murder mystery or something. But what about okay, Veronica Mars? What are you on about? No. But I'm open to being wrong. It's helloflopculture@gmail.com, and we are on social media. It's flopculture_pod. Let's have a chat. Speaking of having a chat, we are hosting a podcast after all. Let's go to the place where so many conversations happen, night in, night out. The pub holds a deeply rooted significance in Irish culture. It's a social institution where people come to connect and celebrate, usually over a pint. It's a solid formula, but that hasn't stopped pubs and brands attempting to reinvent the wheel over the years. Joining me to discuss pub and drink flops is writer and author Ali Dunworth. Enjoy, and please drink responsibly. Ali Dunworth, thank you so much for joining me on Flap Culture. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm delighted to have you because we're going a little bit off the beaten track. I love a guest who comes with a different take on flops and what it means to flop and a different part of culture that I've never explored. You've written this brilliant book. We're going to talk about it a little bit at the end, but it's all about pub culture, Irish pub culture, pints. So you're coming to the table with, flops from within pub culture and drink flops from Ireland. I'm obsessed. Why did you come up with that?
Well, I'm a long time listener to flop culture, but I'm always really jealous because in your head you're always going, what would my subject be when you're listening? Well, I do. And I'm always amazed by how in-depth the subjects are. And yeah, this was just something that was in my head going, I think it would fit really well. And I think there's loads of them. And when I was talking about it, I did have a bit in the book about it, but I had to take it out. I didn't have enough room. But even when I was asking on social media, what pub flops do you remember? People get very passionate about it.
I can imagine, especially around the specific drinks ones, because we are, as a nation, so passionate about pints. Obviously, you've written a book about it. We love our drink.
Yeah.
No questions about that. But when you have something that's kind of pushed so aggressively as some of these drinks flops that you've sent me, to see it then kind of fall off a cliff. The Irish are nearly waiting gleefully in the back to be like, we told you that'd never work, or don't mess with the original, So what kind of drinks flops or pint flops were people suggesting, or what were the ones that kind of first came to mind for you?
Well, the first one that everyone always says is Guinness Light.
Okay.
Which I don't think, it was before my time.
Yeah, I don't remember it either.
It's definitely before your time, because it was 1979, I think that happened. But I think we're so brand loyal in Ireland, and I've written about this, was we pick a drink and we stick with it. So it's really hard to market into that. And Guinness obviously is one of the most successful brands of all time. So again, you're always going up against that. So I think people laugh a lot about the Guinness flops because how do you ever go up against the mammoth that is Guinness?
Yeah.
And they have tried and failed many times.
Okay, so Guinness Light was essentially, the clue's the name, a lighter Guinness, different strength, or was it more a flavour thing they were approaching, or what was their motivation, do you think?
Yeah, it was a bit of both. It was I think they were worried in the 70s that people thought, still now people think of Guinness as an old man's drink, and the younger people were drinking it. And what happened was the European lagers were becoming very popular. So they're trying to compete against that. They see people turning to them. And yeah, when you read about it, people writing about it, they call it the Titanic of stouts.
Okay.
Because it was such a big failure. And they kind of, as you said, they went in fully, loads of advertising. This is going to be amazing. They had a strapline that said it couldn't be done. They said it couldn't be done. And they had
no.
And you can find this ad online, and it's Neil Armstrong is in it. And it's futuristic, and there's kind of heads turning, and then the strapline at the end is, what one small step did for mankind, we've done for beer. And then it goes, they said it couldn't be done. So it was huge.
Okay.
They spent I think at that time, I'm not sure what the figure was, but they spent a lot of money. And then they did this big launch party. There's a brilliant website, publin.ie, and he had pulled back all the archive and kind of described it. And it was on RTE, so you can watch it on RTE archive.
Okay, stunning. I'll link everything in the show notes for anyone who's listening.
Oh yeah, I'll send them on to you. But there was waiters dressed in futuristic spaceship style. They kind of appeared from behind a sliding door with all these trays of Guinness Light, and everyone was at the launch. It was televised. It was a big deal. So that was in 79.
That's unheard of for nowadays. That's.
But if you think about it now, Guinness do launches like this all the time for Guinness.
Yeah.
They're brilliant. There's always gigs on. There's always stuff on. So they were doing this early on, but it didn't work. I think that anyone who did want to drink it was kind of mortified about drinking it.
Okay.
So it was that afraid, we're so brand loyal, we drink our drink, we know what we want, and then you kind of be embarrassed to order it.
Yeah.
And I think back then there was still that division between what men and women drank, much more obvious than it is now.
Yeah.
So maybe it was thought of as a girly drink.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be seen, even if it was lighter. Because I suppose what people said about Guinness was, I'm still to this day, I can only have a couple of pints. It feels heavy. I don't think that, but some people do.
Yeah. Incorrect people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's not for everyone. Like, I can't drink gin.
Okay.
You know?
Fair, yeah.
Guinness is my safe space.
Okay.
But yeah, so there's loads. And like online then everyone was, sharing a lot about that one.
Okay.
But the funny thing about Guinness Light is, like, I feel if it was around now, I wouldn't mind it.
I think there is such a market for it now, as you said, those people who like do think it's too heavy or like do actually enjoy the taste of it, but they're like texturally, again, I can't have any more than one or two.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's funny to hear those arguments against like, oh, we'd never drink this now, or sure, like, what's the point of drinking it if it's not the real thing? You saw that argument crop up even when Guinness launched Guinness 00, which has been like a smash success for Guinness as a brand, kind of opening up to people who, whatever, they're driving, they enjoy the taste of Guinness. That's always something when I see people commenting and being like, sure, why would you drink this? Would you not just drink the real thing? And it's like, some people are drinking it for the taste, shockingly. Not all people are like you, clearly, who are just going out to get sculled. It's bizarre hearing some of the arguments.
But Guinness 0 is like a huge success for them. And like, I love it.
Yeah, same.
Like, and I've got so many friends like, who, and I'm of a certain age where over the last like 15 years, 20 years, there's always been someone in your group who's been pregnant and not drinking or driving and not drinking. And like, it's so nice to have that feel and not to be like the odd one out and have to drink like those Erdingers and those non-alcoholic beers we used to have, they're not any use.
Or like, girls, there's only so many Coke Zeros you can have before you're like, my teeth are furry. You know what I mean? Like, I just want like a normal drink, like.
It doesn't feel the same having like a fizzy drink in a pub as having and the Guinness 0.
Talk to me then about Guinness Extra Strong. We're going from like one end of the spectrum to the other.
Oh yeah, so that was one that like I got a big list which I don't necessarily have loads of information about because a lot of them that people said they weren't released in Ireland.
Okay.
Like there was another one, Guinness Black.
Okay.
That was, I think, 1998.
Okay.
And that was bottles of Guinness lager.
Okay.
But that was only released in Northern Ireland. But I think it's still around in other countries. They might not make them here, but they might have them other places. But the other one everyone was on about was Guinness Brio.
Another one I've literally never heard of.
Yeah, and again, was probably before your time. Now, the Guinness Black was... The Guinness Brio was 1998.
Okay.
So that was around the time I started going to the pub.
Okay.
I don't remember it, but the people who do remember it like very, very vividly.
Okay.
So again, Guinness were feeling threatened by the lighter style beers. I think this is like, I would have been drinking Budweiser then. It was all about the American light beers like Budweiser, Miller,
Coors.
You know, I don't know if Coors had arrived on our shores just yet. But
I think Coors is mine. Coors Light.
But like we thought they were like, they were advertised so well.
Yeah.
And like, we loved everything American. But you also had the European beers again getting popular. So they brought out this Brio, which they say was a kind of cloudy, citrusy beer. And they wanted to call it a pint of white. So as opposed to going in and saying,
the black stuff,
I'll
the
have
white
a pint
stuff.
of black.
Okay,
He'd say, I'll have a pint of white. So Brio meant glow in Irish.
Okay.
And they said they designed it for like the modern Irish man and woman, the yuppie go-getters who didn't have time to down the pints, who didn't want to drink a load of heavy pints of Guinness. And yeah, they put it in all the, because they have taps in all the pubs. So they would have put it in like all the pubs in the 90s. And again, they would have advertised it. Same with Guinness Light. Like when they went in with everything. So you would have had the beer mats, you would have had, the bar mats, you would have had the stickers, the taps. Like they go all in with the branding.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I think that it was a hard sell because again, if you're going to drink Guinness, you're going to drink Guinness. And if you wanted to drink beer, you were going to drink...
It's really interesting to consider like a stout ever feeling threatened by a lager when like they are fundamentally such different drinks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's just even before you came in here, producer Adam, when I explained what we were doing, like he mentioned Guinness Extra Cold, which I think are extra cool, which is still, Adam said it's still on sale in the UK, which was like obviously a thing where it was like, the British people won't drink Guinness because it's too quote unquote warm in comparison to like a lager. So we need to make it colder, but it's just, they're fundamentally different drinks, like mouthfeel, flavour, everything.
Yeah. And the Guinness Extra Cold was another one I remember that. And I remember another one that came in a bottle that I couldn't find any evidence of it because they're kind of good at, I think, covering up a lot of it. Like you won't, you probably, I don't know if...
Sorry about this podcast then. We will all be reminding you.
Sorry, Guinness, I still love you. You're on the front of my book.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know if there is a section in the storehouse that is like the Guinness fails. I don't know. But they've had
Make that a room. Let us go there. As someone who also loves the storehouse.
But like, it's a fail in such a small, successful story.
Yeah.
Like that it really, as you said, like, why are you trying so hard? Like, to go up against, and like back in the around the 2000s, like it was all about the Heineken, Carlsberg. As you said, then Coors came along, and like when Coors came along, like that's the opposite. That's a huge success story of a beer that tastes like absolutely nothing.
Do you know what I think it was? It was it had like the mountains on the side, and the mountains would turn blue if it was really cold. We fucking love a novelty, girls.
But also the confusion of when it came out, like Coors Light. Like they never specified if it was light in calorie or light in booze.
Yeah.
So the girlies were just like, oh, a light beer. But like Guinness is only 4.2%. So it's actually light in alcohol when it comes to a lot of the other premium like drinks anyway.
Yeah.
So we don't think about that. But yeah, and like there was a lot of those. I know someone sent me a picture of like a Budweiser extra cold with the frozen taps.
Yeah.
And we loved them. And there was a stage.
Oh my God, we loved them in a pub.
There was a stage then when like those pint glasses came out that had like the sandstone etched in the bottom.
Yes.
And it would make your beer extra fizzy. And like there was always, I don't know, and I think we really clung to, like, we're so brand loyal and we love marketing as Irish people. Like, I think we really buy into it, especially when it comes to booze. It's probably harder now because you can't advertise as much as you could back then. But back then, when something new came on the market, you felt like it was everywhere.
It was everywhere, yeah.
And one of those was, and you remember this one, Bulmer's Pear.
Yes. I can still hear the voiceover from the TV ad, and when you said it, and like, they're putting it forward like it's so delicious, and I'm sure it was. I'm not a massive cider person, I'm going to be honest. Like, again, drank it a lot in young adulthood, and I don't know, I can't now. But it was only when I was reading your notes about like why people maybe didn't respond to it as well, it all came flooding back, pardon the pun potentially. Talk to me about Bulmer's Pear.
I don't remember Bulmer's Pear.
Okay.
I don't think I lived in Ireland when it came out.
Okay.
But when I put this question out on social media, like it was Guinness Light, Guinness Brio, and then it was the Bulmer's Pear.
Yeah.
And a lot of the poo emoji. And I was like, what's this now?
Like, what's going on?
What's happening? And everyone was just like, Google it. So, yeah, so it came out in 2009. And I think that, I do remember that was around the time, the Kopparberg, like those Swedish ciders.
Do I know about the Kopparberg? Oh my God. Again, another one that I think I've kind of ruined my childhood with.
No, I was never really, I was a cider drinker early on when that's what you could afford, a flagon.
Yeah.
But like, I've never been into Bulmer's, always thought it was real sugary. But even that's wild in Ireland, that like we've only ever drank one kind of cider. I know now you have Orchard Thieves and Outsider.
Yes, Outsider, yeah.
Yeah, but they're all kind of the same anyway. It's not like when you go to England and like on tap, you've always got that lovely dry, like Aspel's, which is like, it's in every pub in the UK, but it's delicious. It's like dry and not sugary at all compared to what we drink. But anyway, back to the Bulmer's Pear. So they launched in 2009. They did loads of sponsorship. Like when you Google it, like that's what comes up in the news stories is it's sponsoring comedy festivals. It's sponsoring music festivals. So they did loads of radio shows. They really got it out there. But then people started drinking it. And then back then it would have been boards.ie for your updates on what was happening. And the rumours started going around that they had put laxatives in the drink to discourage people from binge drinking.
Oh, God. The pears were not agreeing with people, girls. The pears were not agreeing with people.
There are so many stories. So, like, I found this thread. Can I give you some of the
oh, absolutely, please, yeah.
Some of the posts. So, Kem wrote on boards.ie, tried the new pear Bulmers last night, loved the taste, etc., but don't enjoy the side effects. Spent most of the night in the jacks, and it wasn't my head in the bowl. Quite tame.
Yeah.
The stomach was like a bubble machine gone nuts. After the third pint, it was like pulling the pin on a grenade. Is it an evil joke by Bulmers?
Oh my God.
Stop. And then I found like this guy who, a blog from around then, the Felix Barry Files.
Okay.
And he took this thread and wanted to take it on. So he did a test for his readers and bought a punnet of 8 pears.
Okay.
And 8 cans of Bulmer cider.
Okay.
So he ate all the pears in one go.
Yeah.
So he had to eat all the 8 pears and then he ate them all and then he ran to the loo.
Okay.
you know, pears, lots of fibre. We know that. That's what you reach for. Pears, prunes, they're good for you.
Yeah.
But then with the Bulmers pear, it was only after he had 5 cans that he had to run to the toilet.
Oh my God.
So,
science. There you go.
Yeah, so he was there. And
Thank
then
you, Felix Barry, for your hard work.
Wherever you are now.
Wherever you are.
And then there was more. There was like, Super Furry said, had 6 bottles last night, ended up coming home because it was so bad, just pure liquid coming out.
Oh my God.
So then one of the Irish Mail, I think, did a story on this, and they asked Bulmers, and they said they would take the complaints very seriously. Someone said Bulmers pear contains a significant level of high quality pear juice like prunes, plums, grapes. Pears contain naturally occurring substances which, depending on the quality consumed and the sensitivity of the individual, may not agree with them. So, I mean, I don't think it lasted very long.
And that was the end of that chapter. Poor Guinness pear. Like, to argue that as well, though, like, pear isn't a hugely flavourful fruit anyway. No?
Oh, it depends on the pear.
Okay.
But
just
like,
thinking as a drink, even in comparison to like an apple cider, you know, it's...
But I don't know if you'll remember back to like, there used to be Perry. Do you remember Ritz?
No, I don't.
Do you remember Ritz?
No.
So like back in the day when we had, like we still have terrible licensing laws, but I remember sometimes the only places open late were like Legs.
Yes, okay. On Leeson? No.
Nassau Street maybe? It's down there around the side of Trinity.
Yeah.
But like they were wine bars.
Yeah.
So they couldn't sell like beer or spirits. So what you'd buy was a bottle of Ritz because it was Perry. So technically they were allowed to sell it.
Yeah.
So if you're going out late at night, you'd be drinking bottles of Ritz.
Okay.
And they were kind of like, they were always like, I remember when I first worked in the pub, there'd be a lot of like older couples that would come in and he'd have a Guinness or a Smithwick's and she'd have like a Ritz with, you know, the long glass poured over ice. So I suppose they were the precursor to the Bulmers pear. But like, I don't know if you still get Ritz these days. But yeah, the Bulmers pear, I don't know if it ever came back. And like Bulmers, what a success story. Like they haven't changed anything. What I always find fascinating about Bulmers is you go to an Irish pub and you get 3 versions of it.
Yeah.
The Bulmers on tap, a pint bottle and a long neck. Like there's no other beer that you're walking into the bar and you're getting offered 3 versions.
You're having 3 options,
of the exact same thing.
But is it just the thing of like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it? Even going back to the Guinness thing where it's like, what you do so well and so classically and so simply, why are we trying to confuse things? Especially when you have that brand loyalty, like, and there's as much brand loyalty to Bulmers as there is to Guinness. Like, why? I get what you're trying to do, nice new flavour, whatever. Why don't we just leave it alone, guys, you know?
But I suppose there's always that, like, at the moment, Guinness is so hot and everyone's drinking Guinness. And, like, we were just talking about it before, like, everyone in the UK is drinking Guinness. And Guinness is the cool drink. But, like, in, like, 10 years' time, it might drop again. And then that's when you're like, okay, what's next? What's next?
Even with, like, whiskey, I suppose you're seeing all these rebrands of, like, I remember getting a drop from Powers when they, because obviously, again, they wanted to be less, like, quote unquote old manny, even with the branding. It's
people
so
were
funny.
really upset about that bottle change.
Yes, I heard from people who worked in off licenses or whatever of people coming in and saying, I hate this new branding, and the person being like, fair enough, I only work in the shop, so I don't know what you want me to do about it, but fair enough.
And it's just, pint glasses are the same.
Okay.
So you know when Guinness...
Yes, people, oh my God,
so,
sorry.
You know,
Cian, my fiance, he hates the the Guinness glasses with the grooves in them.
It's got a name. I can't remember
what
what
the name
is.
And he's told me before and to say I don't remember.
There's a great Instagram account called All Things Guinness, and he will like keep you updated on the glasses and what's happening and what glasses are where. And he has a collection of like every Guinness glass ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, always updating on where is serving what. But yeah, I know loads of people who won't drink Guinness with the little twist in it.
Yes, yeah, the twist.
They're like, no. But they're gone back now to the tulip glasses.
Yeah.
And actually, your man, All Things Guinness, he posted the other day that they are also bringing back the half pint, the tulip glasses for the half pint.
Oh, when I get them, I'm obsessed.
They're so gorgeous.
Give me my little tiny baby pint. Don't be giving me that fucking latte glass with a half pint in it. So embarrassing.
I actually have a chapter in the book about like justice for the half pint.
Okay.
Because I think the half pint's gotten a really hard time.
Yeah,
and like
agreed.
it should be okay to go like, oh, you're right. Like the other night I was waiting for the bus and then I was like, okay, I could have just ordered a half pint and I didn't. Then I missed the bus. Then I had another one.
Yeah.
But if the half pint was, if I was more inclined to order it, and if it comes in those little glasses, you are.
Yeah.
But there's loads of reasons people don't.
Interesting. Okay. You miss 100% of the half pints you don't drink. That's what I've heard, and that's what I say.
Justice for the half pint.
Justice for the half pint. Maybe not justice for our next topic, Island's Edge. This is one I think most people listening will remember because it's the most recent. A stout competitor, another one for Guinness from Heineken. Tell us a little bit about Island's Edge.
And this is the one that when you were like, what was your idea behind doing this? And it was Island's Edge because I kind of felt bad for it.
Yeah.
But I also was like, why? Why? Because like, it was Heineken that brought it out. Heineken already have Murphy's and Beamish.
Yeah, we'll get to it obviously, but like there's a huge marketing budget behind Island's Edge. I'm like, why aren't you putting it into the creamy beamies? You know what I mean?
Are you from Cork?
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on.
And
like Beamish is having a real moment.
Yes.
Like creamy beamies are kind of like the people who are feeling, oh, Guinness is a bit obvious now.
Yeah.
And also with the price change, with the price hikes, if you can get your Beamish like a little bit cheaper. But Beamish is delicious.
I love Beamish.
You probably know this, but I was drinking Beamish the other night in Waters.
Yes.
In the Snug. Like what a spot. And I was with my friend Tom and he was drinking Guinness. And we ordered it and the barman was like, a home and away. I was like, sorry, what? So that's what they call it, a home and away. So Guinness is home, Beamish is away. So then, of course, we thought we were great. We said we'd stay in the Snug because every time they looked over, we'd nod and go, home and away.
Home
and then
away.
You really feel like you're a local then.
I'm obsessed with that. The secret language. So cute.
But yeah, so Beamish already has, like, Murphy's has a great reputation.
Yeah.
So does Beamish.
Yeah.
So, like, Island's Edge, they apparently spent 20 million.
Oh my
So can you
God.
imagine if they spent that 20 million on Beamish?
Yeah.
Like we'd be sitting here now talking about Beamish.
We'd
all
probably
day.
be drinking it, yeah.
I'd love it now. It's lovely. But anyway, Heineken decided in 2021, for whatever reason, they were going to launch a brand new stout, Island's Edge. Already the name feels a little bit like, I don't know, Wild Mountain Thyme. Like,
yeah.
twee.
It's a bit, twee is the perfect word, I think.
Like just Irish, you know?
Yeah.
I already.
Island's Edge.
And like they were brave because I mean Guinness has 90% of the stout market in Ireland, so they were going in like, okay,
Okay, we have to admire the bravery then, you know what I mean? Courage.
Yeah.
Courage when you're facing up against those stats,
I mean, why not? People, actually another one just popped into my head we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
But it was like, but their marketing was, they pitched it as, it's better, less bitter.
Okay.
So you're marketing to a country that loves Guinness, that thinks of Guinness like as a national product. You know, we think of it as our own and you're straight away slagging it off.
Yeah.
So you're not saying it's better than Guinness, but you're trying to say it's less bitter. And like Guinness isn't bitter. It's only bitter if you drink it wrong or you have, a bad pint. But like, they said on their website, Irish people love stout. We just don't always like the actual taste of it. But that's not true. The most common complaint being that sometimes it's too bitter.
But again, that's not from the 90% that we've just talked about. Like
That's
you're
from
trying,
the
you're
the
trying to appeal
10%.
to the 10%. No,
Yeah.
like
that's the 10% who don't drink it.
I'm not good at maths, girls, because I'm doing a podcast clearly. But like that's the math ain't math in there. You know what I mean? Like no, that's a completely the wrong approach from the off.
And they did that ad where they filmed it in Hogan's. Do you remember? It was like, oh, you should tell people what you're really thinking.
Everyone's being really honest tonight. Yeah,
it was this real, like, it just fell flat.
So I will say we remember it. So I'm like, is that a sign we're going on? I don't know. Anyway,
because it was annoying.
Yeah.
And you're like, it didn't convince me. And I remember, and that's what I posted a picture of the other week. They were in, like, I was in the Tolka House, a good Guinness pub, and they were giving out
Tolka House.
They were giving out little small pinteen glasses of Island's Edge for you to taste. And again, that's not going to work because side by side comparison, you're like, I'm going to like stick with the Guinness. Now, I did have a night on Island's Edge and I didn't mind it. I was at a gig in the Point, or whatever it's called now, the Three Arena, and that's all they had on tap. And I drank it and I didn't mind it at all.
I had it and I was like, it's fine. Would I choose it over Guinness? No.
Murphy's or Beamish, I will choose over Guinness in certain circumstances. Yeah. Like that, in Walsh's they have Beamish, I'll drink it there.
Yeah.
The Harold House, the Beamish is lovely there.
Okay.
Like there's a few pubs, and obviously if you're in Cork, like you're not ordering Guinness because you'll offend them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Truly.
But yeah, so Island's Edge, I think lasted 2 years before they folded.
Yeah.
Now, my internet sleuths on Twitter will say that it's still being brewed, but just not necessarily available in Ireland on tap.
Okay.
Which you find with a lot of them. Like when I was writing the book and I was doing this brand loyalty chapter and I was trying to find out what happened to the drinks we used to love. Like Furstenberg was a pint that actually a lot of people talk about.
Okay.
Now, again, Furstenberg was really popular in the 90s. I think I just missed it. But that's still available in cans.
Okay.
And like loads of stuff that was on tap, like Carling, like Tennent's, like they're all on tap. Or they're all on, it's still available in cans if you go to certain off licenses. But yeah, just, I mean, you know, it's prime real estate, the taps in an Irish pub.
Yeah.
So you can see why there's always that battle to get on there.
Battle of the Pints.
But another stout that I hope continues to be a flop is Forged. I actually don't even want to say the name of it.
I mean, I agree. Having never tasted it and never will.
You know, what they did a big campaign a few months ago where they decided to send out a press drop of Forged Irish Stout to a lot of people. I received it. Now, you know, you get press drops like someone's meant to contact you beforehand and ask you if you want it.
Yes.
And you say yes or no.
That's GDPR, girls. Any of the PRs listening, you need to contact people.
I did not get contacted and I was disgusted because I would not be a fan of this stout and I would not be a fan of the man who makes the stout. Anyway, arrived in this big box with like glasses and t-shirts and all this paraphernalia and a couple of the cans. And I was like, what is this? So I put it on Instagram and kind of blacked it out and said, kind of a bit pissed off that I got this. Did anyone else? Well, the flood of it into the inbox happened to so many people. And there was a load of us and nobody wanted to support this brand and nobody wanted to try this stout.
Yeah.
And we all complained back and put complaints in, but nothing happened. So there's definitely like, they're trying really hard. I think I don't think that will ever take off. I think there's pubs that just won't put that tap in.
They're really hitting a lot of influencers though for their influencer marketing, which I find interesting, but also really depressing to see some of my fellow content creators.
And what's really depressing about it is if you see some of the campaigns that they did and it was pure like 80s, 90s, like girls in tight t-shirts and just a pair of like little short knickers with the Forged Stout branding going like drink Forged Stout. It just feels so like, I don't know. I'm like, who are you appealing to? And are you only appealing to people who you're paying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Sorry. That's a big flop.
Truly. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this talking super pubs. Okay, let's talk super pubs. What is a super pub, first of all?
Well, as you're probably too young to remember these now, but they were around the time I started drinking. So they emerged in the 90s. They were, so around the time Ireland started to get rich. And, you know, we started going out more.
Don't we miss it, girls?
Just that time when there was loads of money. And I suppose, like, again, this is around the same time, like, Guinness did Brio. So, you know, the world was changing and Ireland was becoming more cosmopolitan, I suppose. And our pubs, which now we love and adore, were feeling a bit old-fashioned. They were like, how can we change this? So, fortunately, a lot of really great pubs got ruined when this happened. But the super pub kind of came into being. And they were like in Dublin, if people will remember, there was like Cafe and Sen, Samsara, Ron Black's, and they were all at Dawson Street. Break for the Border, which really, is it still there?
I think it's closed. I'm 90% sure it's closed.
It's something else now. You had Zanzibar, you had Bad Bob's. Bad Bob's still around.
Still on the go,
I think it's rebranded.
Yeah.
Howl at the Moon.
Howl at the Moon.
I think that's now, is that where the Leinster is now? That new fancy, it's around there.
It's over that direction anyway,
Howl at the Moon. The George was an original super pub, fireworks, and in Galway you had the Keys Bar and the front door. They're kind of still there, the Keys is. But basically it was like a new breed of pub where it was big and it was like you'd have sort of, would you even call it exotic decor, like in, you know, African spice tea chests, and you'd have a lot of like Moroccan inspired decor.
Okay.
And it wouldn't be your average, you know, the carpets and the little stools and the leather banquette seating was gone.
Yeah.
And in its place was a lot of those colours and loads of carpets and a lot of things you might buy in an auction. Like I don't know if you remember in your Break from the Border had loads of like Native American decor in there.
So bizarre.
And Zanzibar was very much like I think like Moroccan style. so they were exciting. It looked cool, but they were bigger spaces as well. You'd kind of make space for a dance floor. You'd have a DJ later on.
Yeah.
They generally stayed open later. So it obviously had to do with the licensing laws changing a little bit as well. But they kind of took over. And what was great about it was, like, before you might have gone to the pub and then you had to find somewhere to go out afterwards. Like I was in Maynooth and we'd go to the pub and then there was a disco in the Glen Royal. And we'd go down there. And the disco back then was just the function room with a DJ. And that was it. But like when it came super pub time, they then changed that disco into like this very elaborate place with these kind of fake rocks everywhere. And like you'd find waterfalls in places. And yeah, I don't know if you remember, this was a nightclub, but the kitchen was a nightclub that had like a moat around the dance floor.
Oh my God.
So like you'd be stepping into it the whole time. Like they were really fun times. But what was great about it, you didn't have to go anywhere else. So you could go there and you could get settled in and have a few drinks. But then later on it would kind of change. Like the dance floor might appear, the chairs might get moved, and then a DJ would come on.
Yeah.
And then you could stay there like all night. So you could be there for a long session.
What was that one on the quay? Again, I think this might be more of a nightclub. The Bondi, it was like a surf, like Aussie kind of thing. And I think they did foam parties.
I would call that a super pub hangover.
Okay. What's a super pub hangover to you?
Because I think that what happened was the super pubs happened. And then obviously a lot of them are closed now, but there was leftover spaces. So let's say there were still places where you go in. I remember this pub where I used to drink it and it still had the light up dance floor, even though it had changed back to like the normal pub again.
Guys,
so like, or people had spent a lot of money on a fish tank.
Okay.
Or there was, I can't remember this place we used to go to that had like TVs kind of in all the walls. And so like it all got very elaborate, but it kind of started to wind down then as well, I suppose, when the beginnings of the crash started to happen.
Yeah.
And people had spent a lot of money. But like they were great fun. The drinks were brilliant as well because it was, you'd obviously have to have all the, like you'd go in and you'd have to have all the taps you'd have in the pub. But then there'd be more of those European beers. Like I remember we used to have the bottles of Grolsch with the flip top.
Yes.
They seemed like, we were really cool drinking them. Or like Budvar came in and like the pints that always came in those big long glasses that you'd knock over.
Yeah.
And we'd all still be out late at night drinking pints, which I think is still a very Irish thing. You don't really go to a late bar or nightclub and everyone's like walking around the dance floor with pints in their hands.
No, definitely not.
We love it.
That's just our thing.
But yeah, and I think it ruined some pubs. Like in Maynooth, my local used to be the Roost. And back in like the late 90s, like early 2000s, because it was beside the Priest's College, they had like bought loads of the interior stuff. So when you used to go into the Roost, it was all church pews and marble statues and all this leftover religious paraphernalia. And like it was brilliant. It was so I just remember it so well because you'd be so delighted to get in there because it was over 21s and you might sneak in. And then I lived in London and I remember I came home and one Christmas and all of a sudden the Roost was a super pub. And it was like this big, long kind of pub and they did the same upstairs in Brady's. But the Roost, I remember everything was like purple and brown. Like purple and brown was never a good idea.
No.
I know it was like in the early 2000s, people liked it. And that pub, in the Roost, they only kept one little corner. And still one little corner is like, we call it the old man's part.
Yeah.
And then the rest of it is still like, could be any pub anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
But I suppose they have a space there they want to pack with students. And maybe the stuff I want, like turf fire and stools, isn't conducive to that. But like, the super pubs were, I'd say, you'd miss them now.
Yeah.
Because like even to go out now for like a late night, like there still is places to go.
Yeah.
But not as many.
I think it speaks more to the issues we still have with our licensing laws and how much Ireland refuses to invest in nightlife and kind of view it as culture, especially you have the aftermath of the pandemic and stuff like that and places not being able to recover, which means like every day we're waking up and places are closing. So you're more and more limited as to, I even think about when I was going to college and like the nightclubs that we had available to us to go out, like Dandelion, Alchemy. I'm not necessarily saying these were good or bad or anything in between, but like they were there. At least we had choice, you know. The Village, R.I.P. You know what I mean? Like it was just, whereas now, and obviously I'm getting older and it's different, and like that nightclub culture isn't necessarily something I'm always craving or looking for. But I kind of was thinking, when I was thinking about the kids that are going to college now, I'm like, it's just so, not to sound like old man yells at cloud, but like it's odd. The landscape is just totally different, and it's really frustrating when it doesn't seem like the government on board to like help at all, or they're only looking at negatives, or they're only looking to find problems, when there's clearly a demand and a want for like this kind of culture. Even when you saw like with Galway, Electric opened a couple of weeks ago for a weekend, and the place was thronged.
But also the like assumption or the ignorance that everybody works 9 to 5 Monday to Friday and only wants to go out at these certain times. Like I worked in hospitality like right up until like my mid-30s, and you're working at the weekend or you finish work at 11 and you want to go out. There's shift workers. Like it was so nice to be able to have places that if you went out at 11 o'clock, you could go to a load of places. And it wasn't a nightclub, it was still a bar. There was music if you wanted. You could sit and drink and chat, or you could dance. Like the super pubs, they were pretty good, but they were definitely another era, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's unfortunate that it's fortunate and unfortunate they were a flop.
Yeah.
Because I think now the pubs that didn't go near the super pub, it's great that they are still as they are.
Yeah.
And like, I think we want to do more to protect them.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to do that, but protect the pub.
Protect the pub, absolutely. Do you think there's ever been a time where pub culture has been kind of threatened in Ireland, or some people have tried to put forward that this is going to be the end of the pub as we know it?
Like so many.
Okay.
So many. And I've written about this, not just in the book, but I've written about it in loads of articles, because I love pub culture, and I love writing about it and the changing pub culture and looking back at it. But yeah, I think like there was, you know, when women were first allowed in the pub, they were like, this is the end. It's going to ruin everything. It's not going to be the same. Oh. And like, that's not that long ago. You know Donald Fallon?
Yes.
He's a brilliant historian who has done a lot of writing and talking about pub culture. And on one of his podcasts, he's talking about Grogan's, and how Grogan's, like, I love Grogan's, and I love it even more when I found out about this. But that was one of the first in Dublin that let women just sit in there casually on their own with their friends.
Yeah.
And that wasn't really allowed. And I think that's because of where it was. It was in the middle of the rag trade. So you had a lot of women working there. But like, everyone thought Grogan's was mad, letting the girls in there. And, you know, otherwise you might have to sit up at the bar with a fella and you couldn't get a pint. You'd have to get a half pint. So that was very threatening. I think televisions in pubs, they say, were like, this is the end of, oh my God, why would you want a television? Yeah. Now, I'm still a fan of a pub without a television.
Yeah, same.
I'm like, I don't want the television on.
Yeah.
If you want to watch sports, that's grand. Go to a specific pub. But yeah, I don't like having it on in the background. But that was another one. Then there was coffee machines.
Okay.
They were like, don't put a coffee machine in your pub. Mobile phones.
The flat whites, they're appropriating our culture.
I mean, I love when you go into a pub and there still is just a Nescafe and a kettle behind the bar. And you're like, if you're getting a coffee, that's what you're getting.
That's it.
They're not going to start faffing around with a coffee machine. Yeah. And fair enough. Mobile phones.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, because I'm sure a lot of people would argue that they are an active threat. And you see loads of pubs and restaurants and all the likes that are like, no phones, or like no Wi-Fi, talk amongst yourselves. And what do you make of that?
I like it. And the one in Cork, High B.
Yes.
I love that. They're like very strict. Yeah. And everyone takes a sneaky picture on their phone anyway. Yeah. It's like, haha. But yeah, I like it. I think that like when you're in the pub, like if you're on your own, grand, you're sitting there, you're doing your Wordle or whatever. But if you're with somebody, you're in the pub, put away the phone.
Yeah.
And nothing worse than when someone comes in. This happened to me recently, and like watching a video beside you with no headphones on.
No.
What's that about?
Jail. Prison time. No.
It's not talked about enough.
Yeah.
Public transport, in restaurants.
Oh, we're in the middle of a crisis.
We're taking a video call.
No, that's another, and it always happens on the bus.
I'm sorry.
Always happens on the bus, yeah.
Like, why do you need to take a video call?
Like, you literally don't. There's nothing that urgent on that video that requires your attention.
No.
You just, no.
So, fan of the pubs that are like a bit anti-phone.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But the biggest one that I remember was the smoking ban.
Okay.
And like, that was fresh in my mind because there was the 20-year anniversary of it recently. And this was when everyone said, this is finally the final nail in the coffin. The pub is over. And it kind of was a little bit for a bit. It did affect the pubs a lot. I remember, again, I was living in the UK, but I came home and I was in college. And I remember I made a little documentary for college, and I went around Temple Bar doing little vox pops, asking people what they thought of the smoking ban. And everyone was like, it's disgraceful. And my friends were all saying the night before, even people who didn't smoke were smoking in the pub.
Yeah.
Like everybody smoked.
Yeah.
And for, I think, a good few months, like when I came home, because everyone smoked at the time and we went out, you'd stay at home that was when Prinks started.
Okay.
You know, so you'd stay at home for much longer and get all the smokes out of the way.
Yeah.
And then you go to the pub for a few hours. But what happened was, the weirdest thing about it was the smell.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden you go back into the pub and we found out what a pub smells like.
Yeah.
And like of like bottoms and beer and burps and like toilet. So it took us a while to adjust to that. Like sometimes the pub was disgusting to walk into after the smoking ban. But I suppose the hygiene changed and eventually it changed. And eventually what happened was then, I suppose what came out of it was the smoking areas. Which are still a huge success, can you say? Are they vaping areas now?
Yeah.
But like they were then the place where the crack was had. And I swear I know people who started smoking after the smoking ban.
Yeah.
Now, definitely people smoked less because you used to sit in the pub and just chain smoke. And if you think about it now, it was disgusting because you'd all be there. And I look at old photos and everyone sat there like with a flip phone and a packet of Marlboro Lights in front of them and the pints. And like that was in the pub all the time. And your ashtray would be like overflowing because the pub got really busy. No one was emptying the ashtray.
Yeah.
And if you didn't smoke, you stank of smoke.
Yeah.
So... yeah, that was a big change. But it was predicted as a flop, but it wasn't a flop.
Yeah. It's just so funny to even imagine it now. Like it seems so wild and unheard of.
Yeah.
And again, I remember, like I don't really remember, but obviously because I was too young, but like I wasn't in pubs when the smoking ban was in. But I remember kind of the conversation around the time being like, oh my God, like what the world is going to fall apart. And then it was like, it's so... second nature now. I can't even fathom being in a pub with that much smoke, like.
No.
Whereas you said everyone is just smoking even if they don't quote unquote smoke, like.
And I worked in the pub, so like even if you didn't smoke,
yeah,
you smelled the smoke, you inhaled smoke.
Yeah.
Or like I remember one place in London I was working when it was still smoking, half the restaurant was smoking and half the restaurant wasn't. So you'd be sitting here having your dinner, you're sitting here having your dinner, but the table next to you are smoking, and everyone used to smoke in between courses. And you'd kind of allow for that when you were calling it away. So, you know, you clear the starters and then you're normally like away to the kitchen, but you'd be like away on a smoke. So they'd know that person was having a cigarette in between the courses.
Soup sorbet and a silk cut choice. Oh my God. Oh my God.
But like the pub has weathered all those storms. So like, I mean, there's always going to be more. Like at the moment, it's the price of the pint. And because... Diageo have, I would think, 3 price increases in the last year, and everyone's like, this is it, we're not going to. Then there's like all the fuss about the €10 pints. What was it, at €10 for a bottle of cider in Temple Bar? Now, pints are ridiculous, like very expensive now, but everything else is. And in a way, going to the pub feels like a more affordable night out than anything else than going for dinner. So if you just want to catch up with someone, and the great thing about it is you don't have to go out for a big long length of time. You can only have 2 drinks if you want.
Yeah.
So, like, the pub is always a great choice.
Couldn't agree more. Which is why you've written this incredible book on it. Compendium of Irish Pints, Culture, Customs and Crack. There it is. Gorgeous illustrations as well from Stephen Heffernan. We love that. Tell us about the book. Why did you write it? What else is in it? Where can people get it?
Well, I kind of wrote it, like, as I said, I'd written, like, I write about food and drink, and I'd written a lot about pub culture. So I suppose I'd always banging on about it, how much I loved pints and pubs. And I happened to bang on about it one night to Kristen, who owns 9 Bean Rose, who's a publisher. And she was like, I think there's a book in this. And she went away and said, go away and write up a table of contents. And I don't think she expected that. Like 2 days later, I had like 50. I was like, here's 50 chapters I could write. She was like, okay, let's do this. You think you can? So I just started writing, and it was funny because I sat down and I just wrote like all the things I think of when I think of pints. So it's done as an A to Z. So it opens with like after work pints, airport pints, beer mats. So it's kind of just a commentary, I suppose. And yeah, when I started writing it then, I thought, okay, I'm really glad we're doing this because pub culture, like we've been talking about it now for the last like half an hour, all the different changes, everything's in flux. It's different now than it was 5 years ago, and it'd be different again in 5 years. And to capture it at a time now when I still love it and I'm very much still part of it, I was really happy to do that. So yeah, kind of, I'm excited to get it out there into the world.
It's so gorge.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, just what a beautiful little book. Makes such a nice gift.
And then to get the Heffy, so as you said, Heffy, Stephen Heffernan, like I had followed him on Instagram and his humour around like anything Irish, he just gets the zeitgeist of everything.
Oh,
and
nail on the absolute head. Like,
in a little illustration, and you're
that
like,
little illustration there. Sorry, I'm pointing at the camera. Anyone who's not watching the video, but like,
I love that.
The little table with the peanuts, the shared pack of peanuts.
And like, I felt like he was already on the wavelength of what I was writing. And I don't think you could have put pictures in because it kind of dated. I love that.
Oh.
So the illustrations sort of, I think, really capture what I was trying to do, which was just like capture like the magic of going for a pint in a book.
Yeah.
It'll never be the same as going for a pint. Still go for the pint. But
Go for the pint.
Bring the book with you.
Bring the book.
Yeah.
Bring the book. I love Peter's Pub for a pint and a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's great. And there's lots of still. Peter's Pub is a great example of like, I just want to like, I want those pubs to last, and I'm worried they're not going to last.
Yeah.
Places like that.
Yeah.
But then the city seems to be okay. Like if you go on any like night of the week, like they're all heaving. Like the proper old school pubs.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about Walsh's earlier, like heaving all the time.
Yeah.
And like it's great to see it.
It is. There's a want for it, I think.
Yeah.
Gun to your head, quick fire question, favourite pub. You have to answer it.
Okay,
I'm being nasty.
I don't have a favourite because it's like asking about a favourite child.
Yeah. Okay.
But I'd say probably what tops a lot of my list all the time is the Gravediggers.
Okay.
Like, I love it. It's so old school and historic, and like you'd never get a bad pint in there. And I like the way it's like still half locals. It's really touristy, but like, and it always feels like a little find. And if you bring someone there and they've never been, they're like, this is amazing.
They're living for it.
It's hard to just have one pint in the Gravediggers.
Yeah, that's for sure. Ali, it's been such a pleasure. I will leave all the links to the book below if people want to get it. But where else can people find you should they want to?
So mostly on Instagram at Ali Dunworth, and also on Substack, The Kitchen Press. But they're all linked on my Instagram anyway, so you can get like the book is there, links to buy it. But it should be in all the shops from May the 7th, Tuesday, May the 7th.
Yes, so go pick it up. Ali, I'll see you in the pub.
Brilliant.
Thank you so much for joining me on Flop Culture.
Thank you very much.
Big thanks to Ali for joining me. As mentioned, her new book, A Compendium of Irish Pints, is out now. I'll link it everywhere below. It is a gorgeous little coffee table book. Will make a great gift. Would recommend. Finally, top of the flops.
You're a flop.
Well, Eurovision was a disaster, I mean, wasn't it? Like, just a catastrophic failure from all accounts. So obviously there was a call for people to boycott the Eurovision because Israel were still participating. Something with the EBU. I still don't understand this reasoning, but basically the European Broadcasting Union, EBU, had said that Israel had not broken any broadcasting rules in the same way that Russia had when Russia invaded Ukraine. This is obviously amidst the war with Israel and Gaza, if you have been living under a rock and you don't know what I'm talking about. Israel still competing with that girly Eden and that absolutely really bad song that was originally written about the October 7th attacks, and they're forced to rewrite it to be called Hurricane, power ballad vibes. It was not, beyond anything else, it was not good, right? But people were calling on a boycott because of this country's involvement with the competition, because of her involvement and everything else. And there was pressure on acts to pull out. As far as I'm aware, that didn't really happen across the board. It didn't happen with our act. It didn't happen with the UK. And look, I'm going to say a couple of things here. And my favourite phrase ever is, a couple of things can be true at once. With regards to our entrant, Bambi Thug. A great, interesting entrant. We finally did something different. I think they're a very cool artist, and I did like the song. The issue with partaking in this way for me, because obviously like Bambi was challenged as to why they were taking part in the contest altogether when they were very vocal against Israel's participation, and like during their performance, and their presence was often marked with them wanting to kind of speak out more vocally and show things on stage and stuff, which we'll get to. very, very vocal in regards to that. But I suppose the whole issue was, then why would you not take the strongest stance and boycott it and pull out or not perform or something? Which they didn't do, which kind of leads me to believe, like, it all felt a bit performative, in my opinion, from anyone who actually went and believed the United by Music stance of, I'll go and I'll be able to, like, take a stand. And, like, while it was very powerful to see artists like Eric Sade from a couple of years ago, he did Popular. He, from what I could see, I think it was one of the first semi-finals. I'm not sure. I just saw the clip because I follow him on Instagram. He performed Popular to open the semi-final, and he's wearing a keffiyeh, that scarf, the patterned kind of black, white, grey scarf you see Palestinians wearing, and you're seeing Palestinian or activists wearing in support of Palestine. He's wearing that on his wrist because he has Palestinian heritage. That was very powerful to see. EBU were like, we're not sharing that clip anywhere, so bye-bye, Eric Sade. Hate you. Loser behaviour, in my opinion. Like, it's powerful to see that kind of stuff, and it's powerful to, like, to hear Bambi say whatever they said at the end of that performance where they're calling for peace, or there's no just word without peace. I don't have the exact phrase because, as I said, I didn't watch it. But it's just, the whole thing feels like a real failure because, like, yes, we did really well. It's great to see us do well after so many years of not doing well, right? I want us to do well. But this wasn't, it's annoying because this wasn't the Eurovision to do well. This would have been more powerful had we just not gone or thrown it, to be completely honest. And I found anything that happened on the stage to be very performative. And I say this knowing that it was probably extremely difficult in the circumstances. I have no doubt that the vibes were off, to put it even mildly, being there. It's very difficult. I'd say they faced a lot of abuse, a lot of criticism, rightly so, but like, to go into abuse, I'm not sure I support that. Even from a security perspective, obviously you're potentially putting yourself in a very dangerous situation. But that kind of goes back to my point as to what was the point then? The writing, I don't know. Because the Eurovision is over now. RT had the highest ratings ever for Eurovision. The most watched final since 2018. And I know, obviously, a huge part of that is, like, curiosity gets the better of people. We haven't reached a final since then, I'm pretty sure. People curious about Bambi, whatever. Like, I get it, but that's, like, really frustrating. It's really frustrating when people have actively called for a really simple thing to be done, which was not to watch. Like, it wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't a huge ask. Very frustrating. And to be honest, like, it's the same with Ali Alexander, who, to be honest, kind of got their just desserts by getting absolutely 0 points with that Dizzy song that they did. Ali Alexander, previously of Years and Years, now working as a solo artist representing the UK, it was another person who was signing things about, artist ceasefire for Palestine, all that kind of jazz, still went and performed. And, like, cried in interviews about not feeling politically confident enough, feeling like they can't advocate for stuff, which, again, that's an argument that I can relate to, is when you get a platform kind of unexpectedly, or you get a platform because it's just music, or because you're just doing a podcast and you think, I can't talk about this, I have no idea. But, like, you can. It doesn't take that long. You don't need, if you want to hit the books, great, whatever. I'm not against people educating themselves or making themselves less ignorant. At the same time, I don't know. It's very frustrating. Now, I will say, with regards to the Ali Alexander conversation, the UK took a big hammering when it came to viewership. Lost a quarter of UK viewers, which, that's good, I guess. But it was just really sad to see from Ireland's perspective, especially when we have been so vocal and so supportive of Palestinians and Palestine. Like, turn it off. What are you watching for? And this whole bullshit of hearing some people trying to coordinate, like, voting campaigns and stuff like this. I don't know. I think the thing with boycotts that people have to understand is we're stronger when we're all together. That's what makes the difference. Look at the likes of brands like Starbucks and McDonald's and seeing how badly they're being hit in the pocket. That's where it works. You know what I mean? Because we're all working together on that. Most of us, obviously. I'm not naive to the fact that not everyone is boycotting. It's that collective action. And like people will say this is a small thing, whatever, and Eurovision will come back next year. And it's like, again, I know some people feel very strongly that it's like they're continuing the Eurovision boycott because it was an EBU thing. Some people are going to watch next year. I don't know. The whole thing just felt like a huge fucking flop. Like a huge, ginormous flop. And it makes me sad and it makes me angry and it makes me like quite frustrated about the whole thing. Maybe I'm in the minority. I don't know. Let me know what you think Eurovision-wise. Are you going to be continuing to watch? Did you find it performative? Did you find it powerful? Did you find... I don't know. Maybe we don't agree and that's fine. I'd love to chat. As I said, helloflopculture@gmail.com, on social media @flopculture_pod. And just to say before I do this plug, initially we had donated... I say we, it's just me. I had donated half of the earnings from the Patreon kind of towards the start of the conflict. And while I have been donating personally myself in other amounts, it's hard not to be continuously affected by everything that's going on. So just to say that for June, I will be donating half of the earnings again to charities supporting those currently struggling in Palestine. That's all we can keep doing. Let's keep talking about it. If you're not in a position to donate, that's absolutely fine. Keep talking about it. Keep sharing things. Anyway, that is all from this episode. Thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate it. As I mentioned, the Patreon there, it's patreon.com/flopculture. You get 3 bonus episodes a month. It's great fun over there. You have a nice little community if you want to comment on things, because you get the episodes ad-free and early access as well. It means we can chat about things. I'm having great chats about the Dua Lipa album. Let me know what you think of that on there. We did an episode on that. Let's say hello to some new patrons. Hello to Aaron Julius. Hello to Kira. Hello to Irini. Hello to Sarah Jane. Hello to Sarah Jane. Hello to all of them. Hope you are all really, really well. Join me over there. I'd love your ratings. Ratings help people find the podcast. 4 or 5 stars wherever you're listening. I'd hugely appreciate it. And as a reminder, some of the episodes are available to watch on YouTube, including this one. So we'll go over there and watch that. It's Fionnuala J. That's it from us. We'll be back next week. Thank you so much for listening. As always, edited by the lovely Adam Shanahan. See you all next week. Bye-bye.